This is one of the themes of the event. Let me give you some background to this particular session. We are sitting, we have done Zolix events all over the world. We started, as Mona said, we started in Japan, then we expanded the events in US and various locations in US. Then last year and this year, we did events in UK, France, Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, and other countries. But we always wanted to do an event in India. But most of our events are actually based on product trainings. But India is different. When we want to do an event, we want to do something different here because we see a massive opportunity in India in the next 10 years. Said, how can we capture that? Why don't we highlight all these possible advantages that India has and make the event with that theme? So the first session I jotted down as part of the agenda is actually this: Made in India, made for the world. Because we believe products can be made from India. We believe world-class products can be made from India, and we can market everything from India. You can sell from India, design, develop, scale everything from India. And that is the core theme of the event. And we believe that India is poised for a massive growth in the next 10 to 20 years. Why is that? I'm going to share some details. Before that, I just want to do a quick poll on how many of you do product companies here from India? That's a good number. Keep your hand raised if you sell out of India. Market. Keep your hand raised if your primary market is outside India. That's really good and encouraging to see. Thank you. So, India has some significant advantages. And in this session, I want to highlight some advantages here so that we are all on the same page. And we think as a company, we have been here, we wanted to share our experiences and what we are thinking when we get into India and other things, what we have in mind. So we thought we'll probably share some experiences. So I'm going to look at India from a demographics point of view, from a talent point of view, and from a cost point of view. Paras and Sridhar and other people kind of talked about it on the India advantage, but I want to focus on this session, focus on these three topics now. So let's start with demographics. Before talking about India, let's look at Japan, for example. This is the population pyramid of Japan. What is the population pyramid? It represents the age group of the population, but this is Japan's population back in 1950. If you notice, a lot of people under the age of 10, that was back in 1950. And then 20, 30, and there are not a lot of old people back in 1950. Fast forward to today, this is how it is. The median age of Japan is 45. You see that the population is aging, and in the next 5-10 years, you will notice that there are a lot of people over the age of 65. What does that mean? When you have a lot of people over 65, you're retired, right? And you don't want to be working after you're retired. Well, and then the productivity of a country drops. And so what happened between 1950s and 1990? That is, 1950s, the population was really young. In 1990s and 2000, it's kind of become old. I hate to call it, I probably belong in that category. But what happened? Well, the reality is growth happened. And for those of you who follow Japanese history, this is Japan GDP between 1950 and 1990. The GDP growth happened between those 2 years. How does that happen? The reality is, these young kids started growing up, started learning. These are educated youth started entering the workforce during that period. And once you had that people entering the workforce, they became really productive. And once you have a productive workforce, which means the productivity per employee goes up, which has a direct impact on GDP. And GDP per capita is nothing but productivity per every citizen out there. Just like we measure productivity per employee for a business, you can, a per capita GDP is nothing but productivity per citizen in the country. That's it, right? And during that period, you'll notice there's significant growth in GDP. That also means significant growth in productivity. Let's look at another example, Korea. This was the population pyramid of Korea back in 1975. Again, you notice that it's fat at the bottom. That is really good. You have a really young population that is ready to enter the workforce. And if you notice Korea today, the median age of Korea is 38. And if you notice that the age group certainly is fat in the middle, and that obviously means this is a lot of educated workforce entered that market. And what happened between that 1970 and today? Again, growth happened. Look at the GDP of Korea from 1975 to all the way. You see that, we all use multiple Korean products, right? And again, you see the significant change in the GDP here. And this hockey stick growth you're seeing here is common with Japan, common with Korea, and you can see that in China as well. If you look at China, the median age of China today is about 36. And interestingly, the demographic pyramid of China and Japan are not much different. They're kind of pretty close. And if you look at China itself, back in 1985, it was fat at the bottom. You see a lot of these young adults who are kind of coming into the workforce. And that's an important thing. And so what happened in China between 1980 and today? Same story. Growth happened, right? So Japan, China, Korea, Taiwan, look at many Asian countries and other countries, same exact story. Now, look at the hockey stick growth in China. Just keeps going up. It's close to $10 trillion there. That's the GDP. So, where does India sit here? And if you look at India, India is one of the youngest countries in the world. The median age of India is 26. And that's reflected. In fact, if you look at Zoho's employee base, the median age of Zoho is between 25 and 26. And I can tell you, this group that is entering the talent pool, the work pool now, it's absolutely talented. And compare the India average age with the median age of other countries. US 37, UK 41, Germany 44, Japan 47, 45. And majority of this population is going to retire soon. So which means the productivity is going to significantly drop moving forward. And India is pretty young, and this is the population pyramid of India. And again, it's fat at the bottom. Just like it was fat at the bottom in Japan in 1950, same case for China, same case for Korea. And fast forward this for 20 years, you're bound to see that hockey stick growth. That is the reason we are excited. That is the reason we absolutely believe India is going to make it big in the next 10 to 15 years. And what does this low age mean? Right? It's talking about upside. We do have a lot of upside. And what happens next? As I said, growth happens. You've seen that again and again and again in the history. Growth happens whenever you have a good, young, talented youth that is coming to the workforce. And what is common between all the three is pretty much the same talented workforce entering the market. When I say the workforce entering the market, it doesn't have to be big. It's not like everyone has to be educated in the workforce. It just takes only somewhere between 2% or 20% of the workforce or the youth to be educated. That's it. It only takes a few people to start a company. And it only takes a few youngsters to move the country forward. And that was the case with Japan, that was the case with China, that was the case with Korea, Taiwan, all of these. It just starts there. You just need the critical mass of talented people to enter the workforce. And India is that. Today, India is that at that juncture with over 10% of the population educated, and that is entering the workforce. And that makes us very, very bullish on India. And that's why people call India the demographic darling of the world. It's not just the age group, it's just the mind-boggling number of people that we have. And it's not just the number of people we have, it's the number of talented people we have in the country. That is mind-boggling. And that is the reason people call us the demographic darling of the world. And India's GDP currently is at about close to $2 trillion. Yes, the hockey stick growth is starting to show. I'm saying starting because you may think we are already there. No, not even close. Compare this with China, for example. That is the possibility. When we say the next 10 to 15 years are going to be big, I'm talking about the difference between here and here. The next $8 trillion in GDP is going to be made by India, from the youth here, including, of course, the people in the room. And that is what we are really excited about, and that is what we want to say. We want to educate the market so that here as a country we have a massive opportunity and we can take advantage of this. And age is not the only factor that plays a role. There are several factors as well. Talent. Let's look at talent, right? In the past 2 decades have seen massive increase in the colleges in the country. And that means today we have massive talent in the country. And if you compare this, any of the talent that is produced, that is coming out of the college with any other country out there, it's very comparable. It's absolutely on the same par, on par with the global talent. Now, if you look at the number of engineers coming out of India every year, it's about 1 million engineers every year. I'm not even talking about graduates here, I'm talking about engineers. If you include graduates, it'll probably be about, it's close to about 5 million graduates every single year. How does that even compare with some of the other countries out there? UK produces 20,000 engineers a year. USA is about 100,000. Germany is about 120,000. And look at that massive difference. There's no other country that has the same amount and the same number of people, both in terms of the numbers as well as the talent that comes close to India. In fact, if you do some numbers, India produces more engineers than China and US combined. And if you digest these numbers, these are extremely impressive. But then graduates is not always talent, right? We're going to talk about it. Rajendran is going to talk about our Zoho University program. We believe India has a lot of talent and that may or may not have graduates. And today, as Sridhar mentioned this morning, 15% of our 2,500 employees don't have a college degree. The fact that they did not have the economic resources to go through college does not mean they are not talented. So India has massive talent. And I've seen this a few times. Some people come to us and say, all the talent is going to Silicon Valley. You cannot create a product company out of India. India doesn't have the talent to build the product. We say that's actually bullshit. That's absolutely not true. And in fact, if you put the people on a problem, they do figure things out. And smart people figure solutions to the problems. And the country has a lot of smart people in this country, and we can build products, and we can build world-class products out of the country. And if something can be done anywhere in the world, it can be done in India. And then there is other side to this. People say, if you look at some of these larger technology companies out of US, look at Google, Cisco, Microsoft, and all of that, a large percentage of this talent, a large percentage of this employee base are actually Indians. Does that mean that someone takes a flight, lands in US and joins the company and they become talented? Right? Flight to US is not flight to talent. That's absolutely not the case. It is the same talent that India produced. How can going somewhere else suddenly make you talented? The difference is these companies created a culture for the talent to flourish. That's the key difference. That culture is absolutely important. And if you create the right environment and the right culture, talent will flourish. And you should also groom the talent, like we are doing with Zoho University. If you're in a short-term mindset, you just hire someone and you ask them to fix problems, that may not work out. If you take the long-term approach and start grooming the talent over a period of few years, you're going to see a massive improvement in people. We have seen that. We have seen that with hundreds of people within the company. So again, the bottom line is India has talent. If you look at the demographics, India has the demographics. If you look at the talent, India has the talent. And that brings me to the third point, which is the cost. This is another significant advantage that we have over some of the countries, and my friends Haider and others briefly talked about it. I want to highlight similar points here, right? This is where majority of the companies in technology are. As Sridhar mentioned, the Bay Area has about 3,500 technology companies out there. 3,500 companies in that 100-mile radius. And interestingly, pre-internet, before the internet, it made sense to have all the talent in a nearby place, right? But post-internet, the world is flat. So you pretty much have access, sitting here, you pretty much have access to every single material out there, every single content out there, whatever is published on the internet. There's no difference between what you read here and what you read there online and what the people read in Silicon Valley. It really doesn't matter. So when there is no significant advantage, then why the hell should you be in downtown San Francisco, right? And it's not like there is any significant difference. And our engineers, we have seen this day in and day out. Our engineers go talk to Google engineers, every other major companies out there. And they do see eye to eye, which means they are on par when it comes to their expertise, and if not better actually. But you will notice that the talent certainly is on par with this, and they are all sitting here. So the location really doesn't matter, and it's just our mindset. We think there is some magic on the other side of the pond. That's just your mindset. I would say change your mindset, and there's no magic. You'll notice that there's no magic there. And when there is no difference between sitting here and sitting in downtown, then why the hell do all these companies be right there in San Francisco in maybe 2 or 3 square mile radius? And by the way, San Francisco is one of the most expensive places in the world. Just last year, I believe, or early this year, they crossed New York as one of the most expensive places to live in. And all these technology companies are sitting right in the middle of it. And There's no reason why. This is downtown San Francisco. And do you know that there are about 30 private companies that are valued over $1 billion, all sitting in San Francisco? Again, it's valuations, no, anybody can claim anything, but there are about $30 billion companies in San Francisco. And here is an interesting thing. Almost none of them are profitable, right? Well, if you're paying that amount, how will you be? And that is the point. This morning I talked about market opportunity. There are cases where you can seize the market opportunity. This is one of them. When you have companies spending ridiculous amounts of money to sit in San Francisco just to boost their ego, that's opportunity. Just attack them, offer a compelling product at a good price, pass the savings to the customer, so offer a good price, and take advantage of it. Once the bubble bursts, it's just a matter of time. It's about when, not if. So when the bubble bursts, make sure that you take advantage of this opportunity, because these companies are going under. About 90% of the companies are going under because none of them are profitable. And that's advantage. And we are doing this ourselves. Let me give you a couple of examples here. What we are doing here in India and what we are doing in US, taking advantage of the difference here. In India, this is some of our competition in downtown San Francisco. And this is downtown Tenkasi. Guess what? They have access to the same information that the people in downtown San Francisco has. They have access to the same internet, although it's a little cheaper here, and we have access to the same talent as the guys over there. So why the hell should we even pay this amount? And the guys sitting here are absolutely happy. And you have this is your backyard in Tenkasi, so compare that with the traffic that you have to deal with in San Francisco, the commute you have to deal with that. Why? And the rent per square feet in San Francisco is $50 a year. And the rent in Tenkasi is $2 a year. And we have been doing this for a couple of years, and these people are creating absolutely world-class software and competing with the big guys. Because the customer is not going to see the view, the $700 million view you have from your office. The customer, all they see is your software. And you can design absolutely gorgeous software sitting in Tenkasi or any remote place in India. Location really doesn't matter. And it's not just the price advantage that we have. As I said, there's no traffic, no pollution, and it also means more space, more quality of life. Because when you have kids, they will obviously want some space. Maybe a backyard helps, but if you are sitting in some of these cities, you don't get that. We kind of tend to lose that value and the value for the quality of life these days. And when there is no difference between sitting in the city and outside, why not just sit outside? Right? And that's one of the key reasons we have an office in Tenkasi and we are expanding that. Let me give you another example in US. As Sridhar mentioned, we did not want to be in San Francisco. There's no way we want to be in San Francisco. So we moved a little outside, about 40 to 45 miles from San Francisco. If you have to get there, we'll take a train and we'll get there in probably 45 to 50 minutes. And when there is no difference, you save on costs and you save on anything. And guess what? If you're outside, you get to enjoy larger space. We recently bought a property in Pleasanton, and the difference, again, if you do a rent per square feet comparison between downtown San Francisco and, say, Pleasanton, $20 versus $50. Again, cut your costs, pass the savings to the customer. Sounds simple, right? It is simple. This is our office. Instead of paying rent to your landlord, we said, why not just make it good. How about pass on the savings and provide better facilities to the employees? Otherwise, if you're just renting a place, you're really, really working hard to make your landlord rich. What's the point? And it's not like we're not having fun. We do have fun. We do have fun right there in San Francisco, in Pleasanton. We do have fun in Tenkasi. It's pretty much the same. And people say, hey, your partners won't come to if you're in a remote location. That doesn't matter. Our partners have fun too. And so does our customers. It really doesn't matter where you are, as long as you offer good products, quality products, value for the money. People do value all of those. So location really doesn't matter. What matters is the culture and the spirit of the company. And that is, I would say, the heart and soul of Zoho. And if you're building a long-term company, we highly recommend that you build a long-term sustaining culture and with values, because your employees value your values. And we have a dedicated session on that this morning, and I can't stress that enough on how valuable the culture is, and that will keep your retention rate. How is that Zoho has less than 5% attrition? Just because people love the company. Simple. And it's because of the culture, right? So we looked at age advantage that we have, the talent that India has, and the cost advantage we have. But just these three advantages alone do not make us successful. It takes a process. It takes some time. And what is that? You have the right ingredients, but you got to make the right dish. Just throwing all the ingredients and cooking a dish doesn't solve the problem. You have to have the right ingredients and the right culture to nurture this, to take advantage of this. And that is the product culture. My friend Sridhar Iyengar talked about it this morning, but I want to highlight a couple of points here. Because you notice all these hoardings and the theme of the event itself and the TV ad that we're playing is we truly believe software is our craft. Building software is not like building a car where you repeat the same thing over and over again and you get an output. Because you're not writing the same code again and again and again. The code that you write every day is different from the code you wrote yesterday. So software is like a manual, laborious process, creative process, and that is basically what software is. And like a craftsman, you refine your skill. If you ask an artist how his painting looked maybe 2 years back, that he did 2 years back, he would say that sucked. And he may like his current painting, but 2 years later, if you show him the painting he did today, well, he'll obviously not like it. Why? Because he honed his craft, he refined his craft. And software is no different. You have to refine the craft, and that is called the continuous improvement over a period of time. Let's look at an example. In 1950s, the Japanese cars were ridiculed as cheap and unreliable. And by 1990s, they were very reliable and very high quality. We have seen the population pyramid. You've seen the growth in GDP. But in reality, on top of it, what they did was built a product culture to continuously improve the products. It's a continuous refinement of your product. That is what happened. And in Japanese, they call this the Kaizen. It's about continuously refining the talent. That is what's more important. And in 1983, the chairman of Volkswagen said this about some of these Japanese car companies. For 20 years, the Japanese car companies learned from us, and now we are learning from them. That's the result of the continuous learning from 1960s to 1980s. And now, if you notice, some of the Japanese cars are, some of the companies are the largest in the world. In 1950, it was not that. The story was completely different. And continuous improvement is not just in software. It kind of applies in other areas too. So let me give you an example. This event, right? I think we put together, we did a decent job, but if you look back a couple of years back and looked at the first event we ever did, well, it was sucky. 2 years from now, maybe even next year, when we look back at this event, we'll say, hey, we should have done a better job. Because there is a continuous process and the continuous improvement in every single thing that you do. It doesn't matter what you do, but as long as you have the culture, that's more important. Let me give you another example. In our office, we have sleeping rooms. We allow our engineers to go sleep. Right? Simple. Even during work. If they're tired, well, they go to bed. Because what's the point? They won't be productive anyway. If they go take a nap, they're fresh and they can start working. It could be during the beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day. And we refine that progress with that process as well. In our new office that we are going to be moving to, we have an additional room inside our sleeping room, and that's called the snoring room. Every single thing you do, continuous improvement. And in the last 18 years, there are so many things that we learned that we did not know, and the only way to learn these is continuously refining it. That's the only way. There is no shortcut here. And more importantly, it's the same set of people that worked on it, and it keeps going. And this morning I said, talking about the Zoho culture, I said it's a Silicon Valley product culture with Indian values. Actually, you really have to expand on that. It's actually Silicon Valley culture with Japanese patient endurance and Indian values. That's how I would define our culture. And when Japanese, Koreans, Taiwanese, Chinese can do it, India can do it too. You just need to have that can-do attitude. And then there is an interesting thing. The Japanese, Chinese, and Koreans had some additional hurdles that they had to cross. The language hurdles. All the material that was produced had to be translated into their local languages. Right? And that was a big hurdle. Here in India, we don't have that problem. We speak English. And most of the material, most of the software that ship, well, most of the material is available in English. And they had another hurdle, because they were shipping physical products, cars. If they screwed up in one place, then that will impact pretty much the entire manufacturing line, and in fact the distribution and all of that. All we are shipping is software. If you break something, fix the bug and push out an update to the data center, and you're done in 5 minutes. Compare that with the hardware manufacturing line, which is absolutely cumbersome. So these advantages do exist for India on top of some of the advantages that I mentioned below. And these are the challenges that some of the other countries faced. And as I said, in the next 10 years, massive opportunity exists in India. And I just want to make a call that let's go make an impact on this world stage. But this is not going to be just an event. We look at it as a movement, because in the next 10 years, I think we can make a serious impact in the market. Thank you.